What's up, everyone? Paul here from the Hoops Crew to share with you this week's nomination, this week's recipient, I should say, of Nuff of the Week. It is round 9, and this week it goes to number 1 AFL excuse maker right now, Ross Lyon, who, as we can see in this photo, is looking at the whiteboard for an excuse for another loss in this very moment. This has all come up because Ross had some things to say after their recent close loss, and they've given up quite a few close games in recent weeks. Their record in the last, well, I think they've got 5 games where they've lost by under 10 points or something so far this season. One of those was against our beloved Geelong Football Club. But off the back of their loss to Hawthorn this week, he got out there during his press conference and addressed a whole range of different questions, but then decided to hone in on the AFL's rule around runners and the fact that they're not allowed on the field passing messages in the last few minutes. And he kind of referred to him and the coaching team as being like neutered dogs, unable to kind of do anything. And whilst I actually get the point in isolation, and if this was the one and kind of only excuse he's really pulled all season, I could look at it and justify it. And I think there's a very, very good conversation that we can actually have about this. And we may well do so through some other videos over the course of the week or whatever. It's certainly a point of conversation as to why can't a coach in the most critical stage of the game convey a message from the coach's box to their players. And maybe it makes an argument for more coaches on the sidelines and all. There's a whole range of different conversations about how coaches can disseminate messages to their players. But because this is one of several different excuses that he's pulled over recent weeks, it just becomes laughable, really. We listen to Ross and we think, well, you're just making an excuse for yet another pathetic end result where you had the opportunity to win and you didn't. And of course, I say this, and I'm a Geelong supporter, and we just lost to Port Adelaide. We were down by 49 points, I think it was at one point, and went on to lose by a goal. It was a close loss. And I can certainly talk about it, umpiring decisions and all those sort of things. There's the advantage call that wasn't made. There's things that we can draw upon. And Ross has gone from runners this week to umpiring decisions another week to free kick ratios another week to short turnarounds where they've played 3 games in 11 days as another excuse. He's wheeling them out one after another at the moment. And again, in isolation, they may be valid. But as a part of a package where you look at a series of weeks and say, okay, close loss, but here's what he discussed. Close loss, but here's what he discussed. Close loss, but here's what he discussed. And doesn't at any point get behind the camera and say, look, maybe I just wasn't, we weren't up to it tonight, or maybe I was out coached, or maybe if I did this instead, if I made this move instead, we might have won. Rather than getting introspective about it and making it about the team and him and the coaching team, he's making it about everything else. He's trying to pass the buck. And because he's done it so much lately, the gig's up. Everyone's onto it. I'll admit, and he's not everyone's favorite person, Kane Corns has been putting on the radar for the last few weeks, did so again this weekend off the back of his comments. It's unnecessary what Ross is going for at the moment. It's too much. And it's taking the piss. No one is going to believe what he's got to say at the moment. And it's not going to be until he sits on the other side of that camera at a press conference or post-match conference or whatever the case happens to be and says, well, we lost because we didn't make this move. We didn't do this. He's a very strategic coach. He's a very, very smart coach. And it's time to take some ownership when things don't quite work out. Maybe your list is not quite where it is. Maybe you don't want to necessarily say that, especially at this point of the year, but you can dance around it without directly saying it. You can kind of say, oh, we're a bit weak in these sorts of areas, and it's a part of our game that we're looking to develop. There's all sorts of ways you can spin this stuff. AFL messaging is all PR because it is so censored in this country. We don't see what we see in a lot of American sports, for example, where they can just speak their mind willingly and there's no real consequence for the most part. And while I would like to see a step in that direction a little bit, because I think it gives us more personalities and we can kind of kick away this tall poppy syndrome bullshit, there's a whole lot to be said about the way we message these pieces of information and taking ownership And I would love to see Ross and his coaching department, his players taking more ownership for what happens. I'd love to see a player come out this week because they've got their scheduled hours they need to do. They've got media commitments and those sort of things. I'd love to see a player come out on some sort of program or in some interview of some sort and say, well, no, we should never have let Hawthorn get in front in the first place. We should never have found ourselves in this position. That's exactly what myself and I think countless Geelong players, I'm sure Chris Scott and the team are all saying as well about our loss to Port Adelaide this week. And that sure, it was an honourable loss and all that sort of stuff. And go check out my thoughts about the Geelong loss to Port Adelaide in my reaction video, where I speak pretty critically about the whole honourable loss mentality that, Geelong supporters, the Geelong football players have kind of lived in for many years. But at least you can say, well, we screwed up. We absolutely blew it in the first quarter, but damn did we do everything we can afterwards to make things right. Whereas here, and I'll have to double check the scoreline. I'm pretty sure the Worm, like St Kilda had, no, in fact, let me walk that back. St Kilda never had a lead in this game. But they were always within about 10 points or so. They have the skill. They have the players. They have the ability to beat a team like Hawthorn, who is absolutely still in the earliest stages of their rebuild. And they couldn't get anywhere near it. They blew it badly. And it's time to take ownership for that. You don't have to come out and say, I'm a bad coach, or my list is bad, or my players are bad. There's none of that sort of stuff. But you can take ownership of bad decision-making or choices that didn't quite work out that led to a loss in any given week. It's not that hard. Again, I think about this as a Geelong supporter. I think about my reaction video. I think about what we hear from Chris Scott and the players when they get interviewed. And the simple thing is, we got blown away in the first quarter and it shouldn't have happened. We're not making excuses for that. It shouldn't have happened. And when you're a strong club, a strong, successful club, you don't run away from those reasons why you lost. You take ownership for them, you reflect on them, and you try to make sure you don't do it again. And I hate to say this, sorry, St Kilda supporters, but that is why your club, I guess this is emblematic a little bit of why your club has been close, but no cigar on many occasions. There's not the strength within the leadership of the club, not the supporter base, not the players. The leadership within the club has been brittle for a long time. And it's meant that excuse making has been accepted a little bit. If you want to be successful, don't make excuses anymore. Ross Lyon, stop making excuses. And just while we're on it, and I'm going to quickly check some of St Kilda's results over recent weeks. But here's a little suggestion for Ross and his coaching team, which includes, beloved Boris Enright for starters. If you want to win a game, perhaps try and kick more than 10 goals. Because this week it was 58-53. I think St Kilda kicked 7 goals, 11. Now, ignoring inaccuracies, they still didn't have many shots on goal for a full 4 quarters. St Kilda. Here we go. They lost to us 76-68. They kicked 9 goals, 14 that day. And, arguably could have won. We've discussed this already, but 68. When they surprised a lot of people and beat the Pies, it was 94-79. That was their top scoring game for the top scoring game. Second top scoring game of the season. When they went down to the Bombers, 71-67. Like, they can keep their opponents scoring under wraps, which is great. And we know that Ross is a very defensively minded coach. 9 goals, 13 that day, by the way. But if you can't put the score on yourself, and not through inaccuracy, we know, there's people who have their comments about Max King or something like that, for example. And it's certainly something he's got to work on, absolutely. But you're not putting yourself in a position to win. You're not attacking the scoreboard enough. 60-67 when they beat the Tigers, and that was after giving away a lot. They lost to the Giants by a point. Now, again, could have, should have, whatever. 79-80. Still didn't pile it on. They got pumped by the Dogs by 60 points, 64-124. Lost to Port, 82-72. They lost, obviously, this weekend, 58-53 to Hawthorn. And when they got a win and they cracked 100, it was against North Melbourne. And they only won by 38 points. A North Melbourne team who's quite likely to be last and get beaten by everyone and has won 25 games since 2019 or something ridiculous. Like it's almost as good as a loss the way North Melbourne are these days. Ross, stop making excuses for your poor decision making, your club's poor decision making, potentially your list not being up to it, your coaching, your strategies not being up to it. Reflect on it, better yourself, come at it again, and hopefully, because I do want to see this, hopefully the St Kilda Football Club can be successful and win a flag sometime soon. There's a bit of feeling sorry for you guys. There's also, like, I want to see the love shared. I don't want to see the same teams dominating, except Geelong, of course. Share the love. We want to see St Kilda be successful. We don't want them to be a laughingstock. We don't want them to be, these crazy stories of balls bouncing the wrong way and costing them a grand final, of draws, of all these, like, of toe pokes. Well, big Geelong supporter. We love that. Lots of other people don't want to see those sorts of stories, inclusive of the St Kilda supporters. Give yourself an opportunity. Attack the game. And don't make excuses when things don't work out afterwards. If it doesn't work out afterwards, take ownership. All right. Ranting and raving complete for this episode. That was enough for the week. Ross Lyon, very well deserved. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel. Check out all the amazing Hoops Crew content. Check out our Patreon, where you can get early access, 7 days free access to a whole bunch of stuff. Check it out. See if it's for you. Jump on board down the line. Hit us up on socials. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. My name's Paul James. You'll find me at Paul James Games on social media. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Thanks a lot for watching. Thank you to our major sponsor, Valhalla Brewing. Wonderful beers. Go check it out. Thanks a lot for watching. Remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.